Imagine that you are an NRI and for geographical diversification you have decided to invest in Chinese market. Yes, China is a power today and there are great companies there. You decide to write the growth story of China. What other ways to do than purchasing tech giants like Alibaba, Tencent or Baidu? You have decided to purchase these stocks from New York or Hong Kong Stock Exchange. You are very happy. Stocks are going up. It looks like you are making great money. But one fine day, you will realize what you are owning is not the stock of those tech giants like Alibaba or Tencent, but a shell company of Cayman Islands or British Virgin Islands. And it can go to zero due to compliance risk. Will you get good night's sleep? I am not at all exaggerating anything here. This is exactly what's happening in Chinese market. In today's video, I am going to give every bit of this information about the potential fraud the big Chinese companies are doing. Even if you are not planning to invest in China, stay tuned till the end. This is the untold truth of China. You must know about it. If you are new to this channel, I am CS Keerthana. I did my ACS from India and SEMA level 3 from UK, and I am also a SEBI registered overseas MFT. I run the consultancy, a firm which is specialized in NRI services in Dubai. Every week I bring and explain a video in this channel related to various NRI topics. If you haven't subscribed my channel, you know what to do. Please subscribe now. In today's video, we are unwinding Chinese secret. What I told you in the beginning is 100% right. If you purchase tech companies like tech giants, Alibaba, Tencent or Baidu, you are in problem because what you are buying is not the real share of these companies, but share of shell companies you may not even heard of. This is happening in Chinese market on the daylight. But why is it happening? There is a reason for it. Chinese government has banned direct foreign ownership in key sectors including internet, technology, media and telecommunication for all non-Chinese individual investors. That means people like you and me who are not from China cannot own any shares of industries that Chinese government considers which is strategic to them or which is sensitive also. But these companies have found their own way to access foreign capital or capital from global investors while complying with Chinese regulations. They have created a structure which is called as VIE, Variable Interest Entity. Here is what happens. As per the structure, a Chinese company like Tencent or Alibaba that's going to create an offshore shell company, typically in tax haven countries like Cayman Islands. This is a shell company which is going to be listed on foreign exchanges like NYSE or Nasdaq. Foreign investors like you and me are going to buy these shares. That means what we are purchasing is name listed as Alibaba or Tencent, but in reality it is not at all the original operating company. At the same time, the shell company which is in disguise listed as Alibaba or Tencent enters into series of contractual agreements with the original Chinese operating company. When they get into some agreement like this, they make sure that the shell company has economic rights to profit or dividend, but has no legal ownership of the Chinese company's assets or operations. Just to get the context right, let's see what happens when you are buying these stocks in India or US. Because you have to compare, right? When we purchase HDFC Bank, let's say, from India or Apple from US as a stockholder, we are having voting rights also. But China, it does not want to give you any voting rights in their companies, especially if you're a foreigner. The Chinese operating company remains owned by Chinese nationals or entities which will comply with the local regulations. This VIE structure makes sure that what you are buying is not equity in China company, but it's a contractual rights designed to mimic the ownership benefits, which in this case is the stock return. When you purchase stocks of sensitive Chinese sectors, you have no legal right or claim to Chinese companies' assets or operations, and your rights as a stockholder or shareholder is limited to offshore entity. These VIA arrangements typically exist in dangerous legal grey area. Chinese government had never officially endorsed them, it just tolerating them, that's it. That's why a non-Chinese individual, we need to be really careful before investing in China market. If China tomorrow decides that these arrangements are violating their laws, your investment could become worthless overnight. The contractual agreements in VIE are governed by Chinese law and their enforceability is definitely uncertain, especially in the disputes or if the Chinese company's management acts against the interest of foreign investors. What right you and I have? You will have no legal recourse, right? The contractual agreements could be deemed unenforceable. Additionally, there is a delisting risk. US regulators like SEC, they have raised concerns frequently about the transparency and accountability of these VIE structured companies. If Chinese companies are failing to comply with any US audit requirements, they could be delisted from US exchanges. This will threaten your investment, right? Finally, geopolitical tensions between US and China. They also could lead to restrictions on US listed Chinese companies, which will affect your investment value. You might think as a retail investor, why should I bother? Because many are investing. Let me give you an example. In 2005, Yahoo made investment of $1 billion for 40% stake in Alibaba, which we are all familiar with through the same structure, VIE structure. The arrangement's vulnerability was exposed only during 2011 in Alipay incident. In 2010-11, Alibaba's founder Jack Ma transferred Alipay, a valuable online payment platform, out of Alibaba's control to a company which he personally owned without informing major stakeholders. They are Yahoo and SoftBank. Remember, at this time Yahoo was not owning 1 to 2% stake like us. It had 40%. Even then Yahoo was not informed. When Yahoo learnt about it, Jack Ma claimed it was necessary because he had to comply with Chinese regulations requiring payment business to be wholly Chinese owned to obtain some operating license. So what role Yahoo had there? There was no much scope for Yahoo, right there. VIE contracts were enforceable only in Chinese courts. Yahoo ended up losing huge money there. Similar incident was reported Sina Corporation, a Chinese internet company in 2013. Imagine if this type of loss can happen to giants like Yahoo, what you and me as a retail investor, what we can do if such incidents happens to our portfolio? In China, remember regulations can change with little warning, leaving foreign investors with absolutely no protection. Before putting your hard-earned money in Chinese stocks, ask yourself, do I truly understand what am I buying? Am I comfortable with the risk that my entire investment portfolio could disappear based on regulatory decision made in China? Do I have legal recourse if something goes wrong? I'm not saying avoid all Chinese investments. For example, if you are purchasing auto stocks like BYD, it does not come under VIE structure. That's why I am saying know exactly what you're buying if you are investing in China. The lack of freedom or information flow is a general risk in China, but VIE structure is a real regulatory risk. Please be careful.